Hey guys, what's up? This is Panzer Dragon, and today we'll be doing top 5 best champions for every role in solo queue. Now the reason I haven't done this video in a while is because nothing really changed in the last few patches, but this patch was really big and a lot of changes have affected the top champions of my previous tier list. So with that being said, let's get started. So my previous tier list, which was patch 4.14, had Maokai at number 1, Nidalee at number 2, Alistar at number 3, Aurelia at number 4, and Ryze at number 5. And the tier list now looks somewhat like Maokai at number 1, Ryze at number 2, Aurelia at number 3, Lulu at number 4, and Rumble at number 5. So even with the damage nerf to Maokai's ultimate, it still protects his allies for 10 seconds, still reduces that 20 damage reduction, and thus since he is a tank, he's still effective. And taking the spot at number 2 is Ryze. So with the nerfs to Nidalee, which I do think is big, I just don't think she's as effective as a top laner anymore. She did lose a lot of her damage, especially the AD, which was the most popular. And so with her AD ratios going down and her attack speed and base damage, I just don't feel like she's that strong anymore. On the other hand, we do have Ryze. So like I said, in many of the patches, he's an AP top laner, he becomes a tank, and he still does damage while he's a tank. And then he just becomes really annoying in the mid game to late game phase, as all he really has to do is build mana and tanky, and then he just becomes another threat along with the mid laner and AD carry, so I do feel like he's really strong. And at number 3 is Aurelia. Now I do feel that Aurelia can carry harder than a Ryze, but the thing is, Ryze is pretty consistent, ever more so consistent than Aurelia, so that's why I feel like he does beat her. And with patch 4.14, taking out Alistar's W plus AA combo, I don't feel like he's that strong in lane as he was before, since the Sheen proc was really strong when he hit someone. And then since Alistar and Nidalee aren't in the top 5 anymore, Lulu does come back into number 4. She's got the utility, the wild growth, can combo with Yasuo, or just help those divers get in there, like Kha'Zix diving in, then she ults Kha'Zix, and then you got this annoying bug on you. And yeah, her utility is strong, she can definitely win games when she's a bit fed. So yeah, she's still strong and definitely a good top lane. And at number 5 is Rumble. Now don't get me wrong, ever since he's been shown at Worlds, he's been getting more popular, and we're starting to see him more. But honestly, when I saw those Danger Zone changes, I just had to think that he was like sleeper OP and that someone would eventually use him. I even listed him as one of the top 5 champions in patch 4.10, but I kind of feel like a lot of people disagreed with me on this pick. Like no one was really ever playing him, but I felt that he was really strong, and he is one of my go-to picks when I have to go to top lane. So what's good about this guy? Well, he's like an AP bruiser who's somewhat tanky and does a lot of damage in teamfights with his Q, E, and R. And with his ultimate, he can zone a lot of people away from the teammates and potentially split them up. Like it's not an initiation as it was before, it's more like a follow-up initiation and then zone control. And a really good placed ultimate with Rumble can be game-changing and destroy the enemy team. Like there's no doubt about it, if you're an AD carry, you gotta get out of that equalizer, or you're gonna take tons of damage and you're gonna be useless the whole team fight. And even if he loses his lane, his base damage is still there, so he's still pretty strong. And if he snowballs, then he's going to be a huge threat. Next up, we'll be doing the AD carries. So previously, I had Kog'Maw at number 1, Tristana at number 2, Corki at number 3, Jinx at number 4, and Lucian at number 5. Now it's going to be Tristana at number 1, Lucian at number 2, Corki at number 3, Vayne at number 4, and Caitlyn at number 5. Alright, so Tristana at number 1, obviously for many reasons. Cleanup potential, mid-game and late-game powerhouse, and even if she isn't as strong as Kog'Maw, she's still really good late-game and good laning phase, and yeah, she's just really good throughout the game. There's not much really to say here, and to usually first pick her if she's up. Now, if Tristana is banned and you are still first pick, it's gonna go to Lucian at number 2. So Lucian has like a really strong laning phase just because his E costs no mana, and he can trade fairly well when his skills are up. And if he actually does start rolling, he's going to be a threat. Like I can say that he can carry games solely on him getting fed, as he does make for a pretty good duelist, as team fighting mid game to sort of late game is pretty good, and he's also really hard to catch with the changes to his E. He also has pretty good mobility with his E and having Ghost Blade, so he can follow up on fights pretty good. The only problem about Lucian is that when it comes to really late game, he is lacking the auto attack range since it is at 500. And so he will get outscaled by carries like Tristana or Vayne and Kog'Maw. So usually as Lucian, you want to push your lead and not get to the late game, or else things start to outscale you. And at number 3 is the consistent Corki. So what can I say? Sorcerer's Shoes, Insane Power Spike with Trinity Force, and Poke with Missile Barrage. All in all, he does have really good base damage, and once he gets some items, he can do a lot of damage. So he's like a pretty consistent AD carry in my opinion. And at number 4, we do have Vayne. So I've been seeing her a lot more lately. I don't know why, but she's kicking some ass. She's kicking my ass. Yeah, she's strong. In patch 4.13, she got a few buffs, and now she can condemn people into Jarvan's Pit and other such created terrain, but I say Jarvan because he's a popular jungler right now. And yeah, she can split push, really good in skirmishes. The only thing that, she has a problem with is teamfights, as it's hard for her to isolate someone if she is being zoned by certain enemies, as she has no poke and she's more of an all-in champion. But other than that, her late game, of course, is really phenomenal. And yeah, she just kicks ass right now. And at number 5 is Caitlyn. So the way I see her is win lane, win game. The only thing I don't like about her is her mid game to late game presence, as the way I feel is that even though she has a really strong early game, if she does lose the lane or go even, I feel that the other AD carry will be more useful and do more damage. Although she is pretty good in siege comps / poke comps too. But yeah, the way I see her is win lane, win game. Otherwise, lose lane, get outscaled. Alright, so now we're going to do the jungle tier list, and previously, at number 1 was Jarvan, Kha'Zix at number 2, Pantheon at number 3, Lee Sin at number 4, and Lee Sin at number 5. But with some changes and my opinions changing, it goes something like Rammus at number 1, Kha'Zix at number 2, Jarvan at number 3, Lee Sin at number 4, and Vi at number 5. And first off, we'll be going over my opinion of Rammus. Alright, so I do feel like Rammus being played at Worlds definitely increased his popularity. And yeah, it showed how strong he was, like the mobility he gave, the amount of picks he can make since he's so fast with his Powerball, and also being a tank, which is really good for mid game and late game. So honestly, I don't know if he should be at number 5, maybe he should be a bit higher, but every time I've seen him, it's just annoying to face. Like, he's so tanky, you can't kill him, and he does a lot of damage. And the buffs to his Q and W, I actually think it's sort of impactful, because I think, let's say, when he's about to initiate, as he would go in his Powerball, he doesn't have the resist up, thus there's a small window where you can kind of damage him for a bit. But now with that 1 second window where you can go into Q and W at the same time, you can't kite him and damage him when he's coming at you. So it's actually really hard to get him off when you're trying to kite him. And if that change is what made him have a 59% win rate and BOP, then okay. So in terms of the number 2 position, I feel like Kha'Zix is pretty strong right now. Just because I do feel like his Void Swipe poke is really strong, and once someone does get low in a teamfight, he just jumps in and gets those resets. And as an early game jungler, he does fit that role. He's really strong when it comes to ganking or dueling the enemy jungler, and also he's got his sustain from his W, so he can keep ganking those lanes and not have to recall. Overall, he's just really strong right now, and if you play him right, then you can easily carry games as a jungler. And next up we have Jarvan at number 3. Not as strong as Kha'Zix, but I do feel like he provides more than Lee Sin. He's definitely better mid game and late game against Lee Sin since he's more tankier, has a bigger initiation, and has his armor penetration. Although I do feel like Lee Sin does beat him in the early game, he's still an early game jungler, he has the damage, and a fed Jarvan early game can start building damage and start pressuring those lanes. Even if he does bad early game, he's still useful, he has his initiation and his base tankiness. And next up we do have Lee Sin at number 4. So remember, if you aren't a really good Lee Sin player, then I suggest you don't play him. But if you are a really good Lee Sin player, then play him because he's really strong on people who know what to do with him. For instance, situations where you have to peel with your ultimate or to initiate with your ultimate, things like that. Other than mechanics, he's an early game jungler, and then he becomes all utility mid to late game. And last but not least is Vi. So yeah, she's strong in 2v2 skirmishes. Definitely when she has her ultimate up, it's like a guaranteed kill, and if she starts snowballing, she can definitely carry games. The only thing I don't like about Vi is how she goes in, and if she's focused by the enemy team, she can explode really fast if she doesn't get any follow-up from her team. And yeah, I see her often in solo queue. She's oftenly doing well and kicking ass, and with the previous nerfs to Lee Sin, Elise, and Evelynn, I just feel like she's coming back into play, and can definitely carry harder than Pantheon and Elise, but I do definitely think that he's top 5. Next up will be the mid tier list, and so previously at number 1 was Talon, Ahri at number 2, Zilean at number 3, Twisted Fate at number 4, and Zed at number 5. And now with the new tier list, we have Syndra at number 1, Ahri still at number 2, Fizz at number 3, Talon at number 4, and Twisted Fate at number 5. So let me talk about Syndra for a second. The reason I didn't have her in like previous patch tier lists is because I just thought they were better mid laners, until I realized one thing that kicked into my head is that basically if she looks at you, you're dead. Like if she's fed, she's gonna one-shot you, and if you try and gank her, one of you is gonna die since she probably has her ultimate and ignite. And so it's just really scary to gank her if you don't know how much damage she can deal. And one of her strongest points is that she has an AoE long range stun, which is really good for catching people out, and then she has a follow-up burst. And also she's actually a pretty good peeler. If the enemy like dives onto the AD carry, she just looks at him and it instantly kills him. The only thing that's bad about her is that when people start getting Banshee's Veil, she can't one-shot, and if people get Zhonya's, then her ultimate doesn't do the full damage. And I guess you can say when her stun is down, that's when she's most vulnerable. Other than that, her early game to mid-ish late game is still strong. Next up is Ahri. So she's still at number 2, she's still pretty strong, good at catching people out. The only thing I don't like about her is that she's kinda skill shot reliant on her charm, as that's her ability to one-shot people as she lands a charm. Other than that, she has her mobility to be slippery, and yeah, she's just an overall strong champ still. Next up is Fizz, very slippery, does a lot of damage, hits like a truck. I do feel like Ahri is better because she has like a better laning phase, and her one-shot combo relies on her hitting a charm from a distance, and I do feel like she's better in the late game just a bit. Other than that, Fizz is still a good champion and deserves to be in the top 5. And next up is Talon at number 4. So even though he got his silence removed, I still feel like he's a strong champion. Like, he has that AoE damage, he can still one-shot those carries, and he can still roam to other lanes and get a kill or two. The only thing that's different is that there's kind of counterplay to him, like say for instance, he jumps onto you and now you can flash and dash away from his combo so you don't take any damage, but he still does his AoE damage onto your teammates, so I still think that's pretty powerful. Next up is Twisted Fate. So again, he's very powerful with his global ultimate. If say a lane is going aggressive, he can roam to that lane, pick up a kill and snowball off that. And yeah, in mid game and late game too, he can make picks with his ultimate too. The only thing that's bad about him is that he's vulnerable to mobility assassins, as if they do get to him first and he doesn't have his gold card up, then he's gonna die. And he's just really vulnerable to those kind of assassin champions. Other than that, I do respect his global presence, which makes me to believe that he's a really good champion still. So last but not least, we're going to be doing the support tier list. So the previous tier list was Morgana at number 1, Nami at number 2, Alistar at number 3, Braum at number 4, and Thresh at number 5. But my opinions change and popularity rises, and so at number 1 we have Janna, at number 2 we have Blitzcrank, at number 3 is Nami, number 4 is Thresh, and at number 5 is Zilean. So I guess this kinda looks odd to you, but bear with me, I do have some backup evidence for why I think they're good. So first I will be talking about Janna. So we've seen her pop up at Worlds and everyone's literally just spamming her. But let's actually go over some things that makes her good. So first of all, the shield. Now that thing, I bet you guys have been trying to kill somebody and then all of a sudden they get shielded by Janna. That thing gives like 240 shield health, and with a bit of AP can go more, while also giving a free BF sword to whoever. So that gives a lot of free stats onto a champion. Next thing I'll be talking about is her mobility given by her passive, plus her W. So she's actually a pretty good roamer. She can, go to lanes and kind of gank them and give them some support, or just ward up really quickly for her team. And of course her tornado can be somewhat annoying, but I think the biggest annoying thing / greatest thing about her is her ultimate. That thing heals for 300 to 600 hit point to all of her allies including herself, while also knocking back any enemies and peeling for her whole team. Which means assassins like Fizz, Talon, and Akali and Zed have to disengage since their gap closers are down, and yeah, it's just really hard to get to whoever they're trying to kill with Janna around. And yeah, she's really strong right now, especially when she hits level 6 in the laning phase. You can't gank her since she does have her ultimate and her Q. Next one is Blitzcrank. So you're probably thinking, this is weird, why do you have Blitzcrank? I thought he was a shitty champion. Well, it turns out I'm an idiot and he was super good for solo queue. So why is he good? Well, basically if he hooks the AD carry, you win the trade, and they probably are chunked for a lot, so that forces them to go back and you basically have lane control over that. He's also naturally tanky, so if you do go for him, well, hopefully you have lots of damage to take him down because he will survive a lot of hits. And when the laning phase is over, or whenever he wants to roam, that's actually really scary because he does provide a lot of CC grab him, power fist him up in the air, and he does quite a bit of damage, so I'll give him that. But mainly, if he does land the hook in the mid game to late game, that can be game changing because picks lead to objectives, and thus one grab equals one pick, which equals one objective. And if he wants to play the vision control game around Baron, that's really scary to go against. And if you do want to try and ward around the Baron pit, you're probably going to get grabbed. Other than that, if you can't land hooks, don't play him. So Nami has a really strong laning phase, she's good defensively and offensively. The healing from her W is what makes her strong, and of course the amount of CC that she can provide with her Q, R, and E. The only thing I don't like about her is that you can dodge the bubble easily, it's a small skill shot, and her tidal wave you can just sidestep, and it's not the best initiation. Other than that, she's a great champion. And like I said in my previous tier list about Thresh, still strong, still tanky, still got those hooks, and obviously a really good laner too. And then at number 5 is Zilean. Well, I actually made a mistake that I listed him as a mid laner. I mean, he's a pretty decent mid laner, but I think he's a better support because of the utility that it brings. He makes basically every lane hit level 2 first, which is a really big advantage if you're going for that early game lead. And his Q has one of the biggest base damages in the game, as it does go up by like 60 per level. And he also gives a free guardian angel with his ultimate, and he can haste people / slow people for ganks. Other than that, he kind of falls off later in the game, as he doesn't really do much, and the big thing about him is the experience gain, which can definitely catch some people off guard, and he's also kind of easy to kill and catch off. And yeah, that's the end of my tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did enjoy this video, hopefully you subscribe, because I will probably be doing another tier list when another big change comes, or like I see something going on in solo queue. But yeah, hopefully you guys got a grasp of solo queue, basically what the good champions are. And I know there are some champions I didn't really list in, like I do feel like Riven and Akali are good, but you know, there's just no room, so I'm sorry for you guys who love those champions. Anyways, I am Panzer Dragon, and I thank you for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next time.